Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Viper Mike here. Going to be working on the G63 again. It's broken as always. So today I'm actually trying to fix an issue that I've had with it for a while, pretty much since I got it. One of the issues that it had was the transmission was constantly throwing a code for the conductor plates, having an issue. And also the range selector. So both of these are part of the valve body. There's a conductor plate on the valve body, and it's just an electrical part, and it causes problems. So I've been driving it with that code, and kind of what happens is if I clear the code and that erases that clears the check engine light, eventually as you're driving down the road, the transmission will just go into neutral. So I'll put a video in here and kind of show you guys what happens. Okay, so the issue is you'll be driving along and it's still in gear, but the transmission thinks it's in neutral. So, and the check engine light comes on. So what you got to do is you got to pull over. And this of course happens on the highway, or it can just happen randomly. So now I have to pull over, put it in park, turn it off, it's still in park, and then I restart it, and now it'll go back into gear. So I think this is an issue with the range selector or the valve body. So I will be taking it apart and trying to replace it. So after that, you have to obviously, as you saw in the video, you have to pull over, shut the car off, put it back in park, and then turn it on again, and then it's fine. And as long as I don't clear the code in the check engine light, it seems to work fine. But that's obviously not how I like to do things. So today I'm gonna try and fix that. So I talked to Mercedes about it, talked about getting a new conductor plate, got kind of some mixed responses from different dealers. The first dealer told me that I had to buy the valve body and the conductor plate together, that they don't sell the conductor plate separate. And they quoted me about $3,000 for that. And they also told me that they only sell those to shops because it's something to do with anti-theft, and it has to be programmed to the vehicle. And then they pretty much quoted me another $1,500 in labor to do it. So I was looking at around $5,000 for them to do this repair. Then I talked to a different dealer, and they told me that they would just get the conductor plate on its own. However, same thing, the repair would have to be done at the dealer. So after doing a little bit of searching and research, I found a seller on eBay who sells these conductor plates. I sent them the VIN for the vehicle and whatever info I was able to get off the transmission module, and they sent me this replacement conductor plate. Now it looks like a used conductor plate. I'll show it to you here now. And apparently it's supposed to be programmed for the vehicle. Now once I get it installed in the vehicle, I still need my scan tool in order to turn off transport mode, it's called, and do an adaptation. So hopefully the tool will let me do that. I looked in the settings, and apparently it should work, so I'm hoping that'll happen. Worst case, if that doesn't work, I'll have to get it towed over to the dealer and get them to do it, or find somebody that has an actual Mercedes scan tool, because the one I have is too old. And then also I went ahead and I ordered, I went to FCP Euro and I got their transmission service kit that they sell. So that comes with 2 gallons of oil, new oil pan gaskets, a new filter, and whatever else it needs. I think it comes with new bolts too for the oil pan. So anyway, first things first is I need to get the thing in the garage, put it up on ramps or jack stands. I want to make it level so that it's level when I'm filling up the fluid. We'll get the fluid drained, get the oil pan off, and we'll go from there. So let's get going. Alright, so we're underneath here now, so first thing we need to do is drain the transmission. Obviously we've got our drain plug over there, so we need to remove it. And then we'll have to push up on the plastic plug that's in there to get the fluid to come out. Okay, so I broke the plug loose, so we'll go ahead and take it out here. We've got our drain pan underneath. So it'll start coming out. I'm almost thinking maybe that it's coming out pretty fast. Maybe that plastic plug isn't. Actually, no. Let's see. So this is a special little tool I got off Amazon. We'll need this to refill it. But I think what we're supposed to do is we'll take it and push it up in there. And that's supposed to, that dislodged there's a plastic piece in there. I'll show you guys after. So that dislodged it out of the way. So now we can wait for it to drain. It should drain pretty quick. It doesn't seem to be taking too long. That fluid is really dirty by the looks of it. I wonder if it's ever been changed. Well, let's let it drain and go from there. Okay, so now that the oil's drained, I put the plug back in so it's not dripping. So now we'll start taking the oil pan bolts off. There's 6 bolts, and there are E-Torx E10 bolts. So we'll take the middle ones out, and then we'll take the end ones out. There's still going to be fluid in the pan, so we'll have to kind of lower it on an angle to get it out, get the rest of the oil out without hopefully making too much of a mess. So each bolt has one of these spacers in it. That's kind of holding the pan in place. So we don't really want to lose those. Oh. And of course, since I only have one bolt in there, the pan is now loose. Okay, there is a wiring harness here on the front that's clipped in to the pan. So we'll need to pull these clips out. Probably should have done that first, because now I have a feeling I'm going to spill transmission fluid all over myself. There might be some on the side here too. Okay, that should be all of it. Okay. Try to let that drain. I'm assuming this is a bit easier on other cars that don't have all this frame and this massive sway bar in the way, but nothing's easy on this G63. Okay, so now the pan's off, and now our transmission's gonna drip everywhere. This is our filter, and it's just pushed in place. Oh, I need to make a mess of this. Okay. I think I'm gonna let this drip for a little bit so it doesn't end up dripping all over my face as I'm trying to take the valve body off. Okay, so now we've got the valve body exposed here. It's bolted on at the front and at the back. We've got these bolts here, and then we've got these bolts here at the back. We've got 4 there, and then I think we have 3 or 4 up front. So once we take those out, we'll need to get it clear past this. There's a little metal. You can kind of see it in there, but that's your gear selector, or the range selector as they call it. And then on the other side is where our wiring harness goes in, and that plugs into the conductor plate. So we'll need to unplug that. So let me show you where that is. Hopefully I can see it. Okay, so that's where our wiring harness plugs in. So we'll unplug that on the vehicle side, and then on the transmission side, the connector is going to push down and come out with the conductor plate. So it might be a little dark. kind of hard to do one-handed. I'm gonna give this a try with 2 hands. Okay, so I just had to give it a good squeeze, and I've got it unplugged here, and then that part, this is gonna come out when we unbolt the valve body. Okay, so I've got all but 2 bolts taken out. So I've got one at the front and one at the back left. So we'll go ahead and take them out now, and then we'll do our best with taking this thing out without dropping it or making a mess. So let's give it a try here. I've already made quite a bit of a mess. There might be more bolts holding it than I thought. I think it's all the silver ones. I think that's the last one. Yeah, I've got oil going everywhere. Do our best to catch it all, or most of it anyway. Let's see if that'll drain out. So right now we've got the harness kind of holding it in place on the other side. So I was able to kind of just let the valve body sit there and let the soil drain. I've got some cardboard on the ground here to kind of catch most of whatever's getting past the drain pan. So we'll just let this drain for a while. Okay, so one thing I almost forgot is to save the coating. So I plugged the old conductor plate back in. I haven't dropped the valve body yet. So now we'll go to setting changeover, and we'll save these. So I guess I think it was on the old procedure. I think we'll need to restart the procedure. Okay, so we go to read coding, and then it asks you if the coding's been read or not. So and then you say no. So we've got the old control module plugged in. We'll go okay. Ignition's on. ignition off. Okay, so now we can go ahead and drop the valve body. So we'll just leave this thing be for now. And we'll pick it back up once we have the new one in. Okay, so this thing's been draining for a little while. Hopefully most of the oil's out of it. So now we'll push down on where the plug is. There's an O-ring there that kind of seals it. So we might need to use a bit of a pry bar or something to kind of push it down. I don't want to damage anything, so we'll have to be careful. Okay, so I brought a few options. Let's see what I can get to fit in here. There we go. And then on the other side, we just have that metal pin that we have to get around. And then this whole thing drops down. Okay. So let's pull this thing out of here and have a good look at it and see what we're dealing with. Okay, so we've got the valve body out. Obviously this is the conductor plate on top here. Just by looking at it, it's got the number 3 on it, so it's the same one as the replacement that I've got. Over here, this is where our range selector thing is, and apparently a common issue is that this is a magnetic sensor of some sort, and it gets apparently it gets dirty, and it can cause one of those errors that I have. But I also had the other error saying that there's a fault with the conductor plate itself, so I wasn't confident that I just didn't want to do all this work, try cleaning this and try cleaning like the surface on here, and then put it all back together and not fix anything. So I decided to just get a replacement conductor plate, and then hopefully that'll fix all my issues. So so just to show you guys, this is what was holding it up on the passenger side. That's where the plug goes, and then over here, that's obviously where the metal pin plug goes into, and then when you shift gears, that moves this, and that tells the transmission what gear you want. So we'll pull this out, we'll clean it up, make sure that's clean, and then we need to pull all these little valves out. We'll keep them all in order. We'll put them in the same place they came out of, and that way everything goes back the same way it was before. So let's go ahead and take this thing apart. And just to kind of show you guys, so I've got this plunger thing pulled out, and just having a quick look at it, there is a bunch of buildup on it. So I mean, this could be my issue, is that it's just dirty. But like I say, I didn't want to do this job twice, so I decided to get a replacement conductor plate also. but I'll definitely clean all this off. You see there's all that dirt that comes off. Looks like it could be metal because this is magnetic. So it's just over time, as the transmission wears, all this metal kind of builds up, and gets this thing dirty, and then it confuses the transmission and causes issues. So if you want, if anybody's doing this job in the future and you're having similar issues, you could try just taking it apart, cleaning this up, putting it back together, and maybe that's all you need to do. If so, you could save yourself a bunch of money. Okay, so we'll go ahead and take all these retainers off for the valves. And like I say, you kind of want to keep track of where you got them from. The green and the black, they apparently only go in one way, so you can't put them in backwards. But I also want to kind of keep them in the same places they came out of, because you can see the black won't fit into the green slot because there's slots here for these to go into. And these are fairly tight. I'll have to look up what the torque spec is on these, so I get them back in the same way. Okay, and then this little thing comes out. You want to make sure you put it in the same way afterwards. I think the easiest way is to kind of actually put it back in the transmission side first, and then put the valve body on. But anyway, so now we just take the bolts out that holds this conductor plate in place. And these are smaller, so I was using a T40 to take the valves out, and it looks like the those other bolts are probably T30s. Yeah. So, and I'm doing all this by hand, just to kind of get a feel for how tight the bolts are. If I can't find the torque specs, some are tighter than others. I'm assuming that's not the way it's supposed to be. This bolt with the large head is hard to remove for some reason. Maybe if I had Loctite on it. But these other ones look like they should come out by hand easily. And you kind of want to keep track of where they came out of in case they're different lengths. But we'll see. These look to be the same. Yeah, so they're all the same length, so it's not a big deal. Okay, and that's that. So I don't know if there's any sort of an issue with this thing, if there's anything wrong with it, but in any event, like I say, I didn't want to do this job twice, so I decided to just replace it. And now what we want to do is we want to clean up the valve body here. I think maybe what I'll do, because this is all dirt on the outside here, you see. I'm going to try to maybe drain it one more time, get as much of this old dirty oil out of it as I can. We'll put the new conductor plate back on. But yeah, I mean, this thing's pretty dirty. I'm assuming it hasn't been serviced in 10 years, which is probably why. I don't know if there's a service interval for these transmissions or if Mercedes calls it lifetime fluid, but judging by how dirty this stuff is, I would definitely recommend changing your transmission oil. So we'll get our drain pan and drain out whatever's left in there. Okay, so I've cleaned everything up here as best as I can. I didn't want to use any brake clean or anything because I didn't want it to get into the valve body itself, because I don't really want it mixing with my transmission oil after. So I just wiped everything as best as I can. And I've got the replacement conductor plate here, compared it to the old one. They're both the same, the part numbers are the same. This one's original. It's the date stamp on it is May 19th, 2012. Date stamp on this one is March 31st, 2015. So I'm assuming this is like a used one that they refurbished. And actually, it looks like the old one was made by Siemens, but the newer one is made by Continental. So I don't know if one's supposed to be more reliable than the other, but here we are. So anyway, so now we can go ahead and put this one on, and we'll bolt it in place. Make sure we get it in the right spot. I looked up the torque specs. They're like 8 Newton meters, which is like 5 foot-pounds. I don't have a torque wrench that goes that low, so I'll just kind of tighten them up by feel. The same way they were, and that should be good enough, hopefully. So we'll just line it back up here. Get these pins all lined up. Get the bolt holes lined up. And then we'll put all our bolts in. The fit is kind of loose for the bolts. So I think hopefully when I get all the bolts in, it'll center it to where it needs to be. See, there's a bit of movement in it. And you kind of want it in the right spot, so I'm just going to line it up with the outside edge here. That way the plug will go back in the same place where it came out of. Just make it even on the outside. I'm just gonna use my wrench to bring these down, and then I'll tighten them up by hand. I think these bolts are also supposed to be replaced, but I don't have any new ones for this. The only new bolts I have are new transmission pan bolts that I got from FCP Euro. So we'll just tighten these up, like I say. 5 foot-pounds is not very much, but they were fairly tight when I took them off. So I'll just kind of do it the same way they felt before. Okay. It looks like there's a little notch on the end here. You want to make sure that it's notched around the valve body. Okay, so now I also cleaned these up because they were pretty dirty. Just cleaned them up with a rag, no chemicals. And now we'll just put them back in to the same spots they came out of. They call them leaf springs back on. Tighten these down. These are the T40s. range selector magnet contraption back in. Make sure it's clean, doesn't have any metal flakes on it, because we don't want it to get dirty again. So this is what it's supposed to look like. It doesn't have any metal on it. If you remember, there was a thick layer of metal across the whole thing. So now I've got it cleaned up. I've got a sneaking suspicion that was my issue, but nevertheless, so it's back in now. That's what it's supposed to do. Okay, so now we'll go back under the car and get this valve body back in. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to get this connector back through the hole, and then the pin that's on the other side needs to sit in here. So like I say, when you shift gears, it moves this, and that tells the conductor plate what gear you want to be in. So you need to make sure that pin's in the right spot, otherwise nothing will work. Okay, so we take this little thing, and there's a hole that it's supposed to go into and seal, so we'll put that in. Hopefully that'll make it easier to get everything else in place. So now we gotta slide this in kind of same way we took it out. And like I say, the main thing is to make sure that pin goes in. Okay, pin's on. I got the connector through, and we'll put a bolt in. Now we'll get a few bolts in, and then I think what I'm going to do is I'll plug it in and go back to my scanner and see if I can get it programmed. Because if I can't, there's no point doing any of this. We'll have to get the old one back in and hope that cleaning that range selector fixed our issue. But for now, let's just put a few more bolts in, and we'll go from there. So we want to start all these by hand, get it lined up. Definitely don't want to cross thread any of them. It does have a bit of movement in it, so make sure you get the holes lined up. gonna tighten all those bolts up by hand also. Plug our connector in and we'll go back to our scanner. The plug's the same, so that's always good. Okay, let's go back to the scanner. Okay, so here we are back at it. So let's go. We switched on ignition. Yes. Let's see what happens. It says it's completed. Switch off ignition. Switch on ignition. Okay, so now let's see if we can write the backed up calibration data. Yes. We'll transfer that. Okay. Okay, let's see what happens here, and then we'll check the VIN next. Let's go right VIN, and let's read the VIN. Okay, so the VIN is in there. That's good. So we'll go back, and then let's go to this. I'll compare that to the old values, but I'm pretty sure these are the same. So, and then let's go through this. Actually, instead of doing that, let's see if we can just do the... Okay, so it went ahead and removed the transport protection. Control module personalized, and yes, we wish to activate it. Yes, it's activated. Okay, So this is, I guess we're just doing this manually, but we could have just done it through the other process. Ignition back on. Okay. Let's try this initial startup sequence. But see, it's already saying all yeses for those, so we already went ahead and did all that. So now the only thing we need to do is this teach-in of the range sensor. So let's go get in the driver's seat and do this procedure. Okay, so I'm assuming to start it, we press F5. So it's in P. Okay. So now I want it in reverse. Let's put it in reverse. Turn that off, that's annoying. Okay, it's in reverse. Okay. Now I want it in neutral. Put it in neutral. Okay. And now I want it in drive. So we put it in drive. Okay. So we'll put it back in park. And press OK. Okay. So that's all done. So now, hopefully, let's check this driver authorization, make sure. Yeah, so it's activated, enabled, personalized, and transport protection is released. So that's all good. So now let's put the rest of it back together, and we can refill it with oil and make sure it all works. Okay, so now we'll get our oil pan ready. This is all the stuff that came in the oil change kit. So this is the replacement plastic piece. This is the old one. So it just goes on here. So that's the piece that you could pop off with the tool. So the way it works is when you fill the transmission fluid, when it starts overflowing, that's when you know it's full. So that's why you gotta push this thing out of the way, and then that'll allow most of the fluid to drain. So we'll replace that. Even though the old one's still fine, we got a new one. We've got new bolts for the pan. We've got a new crush washer for the drain plug, and then we've got a new gasket, and then obviously we have the new filter. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna clean the pan. You can see the magnets here. They're covered in metal. So we'll clean those off. Clean the bottom of the pan out, replace the gasket, and then we'll get ready to put the pan back on. Okay, so got the pan cleaned up, got the new gasket on there, cleaned up the magnets, and so now we can put the pan back on. Don't forget to put the new filter on, obviously, and then we'll put this new plastic piece on. Okay, so we've got our new filter on, and make sure everything's seated properly, everything's clean. Clean up the gasket surface on the transmission side, and make sure the new gasket's seated. It has little retaining pins kind of holding it in place. Now we can get the pan in. And use the new bolts they give you. Don't really know why you need new bolts for this, but why not, I guess. And make sure these metal spacers sit in the proper place. They have a little notch for the pan itself. And 5 of them are the same, and then there's one that's a corner one. It looks like it goes on the passenger side front here, from what I remember, and the rest of them go around the perimeter. So you kind of want to just get them started, and then get those spacers situated. Unless this one goes on the back. I'm gonna just take a look here and see if I can figure it out. Actually, I think it does go on the back here. So it goes on the passenger side rear. The only place I can really see where it would make sense. Everywhere else it will kind of hang off the side. Same with these, you want to tighten them up by hand. Definitely don't want to over tighten them. Passenger side rear, the cross member is in the way, so you can't even use an extension on it. So you kind of want to tighten them in a crisscross pattern. I think maybe instead of tightening the back one first, I'm going to tighten the center ones. So I'm going to back that one off. Everything's covered in oil, so it's can't even get the socket off. And obviously later on, once we have oil in there, and if it starts leaking, then we can tighten up the bolts. So I tighten the middle first, and then go front, right, and then rear, left sort of thing. I feel like that should be good enough. I think the spec is like 8 Newton meters or something. I'll have to look it up again, but that's not a lot. So we'll do one more pass here. Okay, so clean this off, get it nice and dry. That way if we have any leaks later, we can see them. And now we'll get this drain plug back out. And then we'll use our little fitting that we have. To start refilling it. Now obviously we have a new copper washer for the drain plug that came with our kit. Make sure that's nice and clean. Now we take our adapter, and that screws into the drain hole. And now we'll take our pump and we'll start pumping it with oil. I'm going to double check the capacity, but obviously the first gallon should go in. No problem, because the kit came with 2 gallons of oil. So I'm going to pump a gallon in and go from there. And I'll clip this harness back on here where it belongs. Okay, let's get our oil. Okay, so I've got my pump all set up here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but here's the oil. Got the pump, got the hose all the way to the bottom, and then I've got my hose hooked up here. Just move the camera so you guys can see. Hopefully that's a bit better. Okay, so we'll start filling this. I tried to look it up online to see exactly what the capacity is supposed to be, but got some conflicting information. Some places say 5 quarts, some say 7, some say 9. Now from what I understand, 9 is including the torque converter. If you drain that. So that's like a full, if you drop the transmission and go to refill it after, you need 9 quarts. Now my my order from FCP came with 10 liters. So I'm gonna pump this whole gallon in there, or it's 1.32 gallons, 5 liters, and see what happens. If it starts coming back out after 5, then that'll be it. But I'm gonna pump it full, and then I gotta start it and shift it through the gears, and then see what happens. So I'll just keep pumping here. If it does only take 5, what I might do is fill it and then drain it again, and then refill it with the other 5, since it'll be useless to me, and I kind of want to get all as much of the old fluid out of there as I can. Okay, so this jug is pretty much empty. I'll get it on an angle here. Okay, so that's that. So I've got 5 liters in there. Nothing's coming back out just yet. So maybe I'll crack the second jug and pump it in there, because obviously the hose is clear, so if it was pouring back out past that fill, then I would see that, but it's not doing that. Let me take it off just to double check. Oh, maybe it is pouring back out again. Well, the valve, we know the valve body is empty since we drained it. So let's start it up, shift it through the gears, get it up to temperature, the 45 degrees that it wants, and then we'll check it. Okay, so let's go ahead and start it up. See what so we're at 20 degrees right now. Shift it through the gears. Neutral, drive, back to neutral, reverse, drive. It takes a while to shift right now. Neutral, park. Definitely takes a little while to shift, getting all that oil through the valve body again. The check engine light went off, so that's good. I didn't clear the codes actually. forgot to do that, but let's see if there's... Oh, I guess the old codes were in the old valve box, in the old conductor plates, so no codes in this one, so that's good news. So now we just need to wait, get this temperature up to 45. We'll shift through the gears one more time. Turn this parking sensors off. Go to reverse, neutral, park. So we'll let it idle, get that oil temperature up, and then we'll go back under and see how much oil comes back out of the fill hole. If none comes back out, then we'll get our second jug out and fill it up some more. Alright, so we're coming up on 45 degrees here. Took about 10-15 minutes to get this thing warmed up. So we'll go ahead and go on back under and see how much oil comes out. Okay, so let's get our drain pan under here. And we'll get, it's got a little dark, but we'll get our drain plug ready. I put the new copper washer on it. And we'll get this hose off and see how much oil comes out. No, nothing's coming out. So I guess we need more. So let's get the second jug out and fill it some more. Okay, so we've got our second jug of oil. So we'll pump some more oil in there. I don't really know how much to pump in, but maybe I'll pump about half in and see. Okay, so that was about 1.5 liters. Not sure if that'll be enough, but no, it's not pouring back out, so not quite enough.